91% of Canadians who reach $100,000 in net savings go on to reach $500,000. 91%. That number is not a motivational poster. That is Statistics Canada data. And what it means is that the hardest part, the only part that genuinely requires effort, is getting to that first $100,000. Here is the problem. Fewer than 30% of Canadian households ever get there. 70% of Canadians, people who work full careers, who earn decent money, who are not reckless and not in poverty, spend their entire working lives on the wrong side of a threshold that once crossed almost guarantees the rest. They do not know they are on the wrong side. They think they are behind because of housing costs, because of inflation, because of a salary that never quite feels like enough. They are wrong. Every single one of them is wrong about the reason.
The reason is not income. The reason is a single structural decision that most Canadians make by default, without knowing they are making it every single pay period of their working lives. A decision so quiet, it does not feel like a decision. A decision that the financial industry has no incentive to name, because the gap it creates is exactly where the industry makes its money. Today, I am going to name it. One person, one city, one income, real numbers. And by the end of this video, you will know which side of that threshold you are building toward and precisely what changes if it is the wrong one.
I want to tell you about Sara. Sara is 29 years old. She lives in Calgary. She works as a project coordinator at a mid-sized construction firm and earns $61,000 a year. She is not struggling. She pays her rent on time. She cleared her credit card debt 2 years ago and felt genuinely proud of it. She should have. She has about $4,000 sitting in a checking account she thinks of as her buffer, and she contributes $200 a month into a savings account she labeled, optimistically, Future. By most conventional measures, Sara is doing fine. Stable job, no consumer debt, saving something every month, 29 years old.
Here is the problem. Sara is 29 years old, and her net savings are approximately $4,200. Not $400,000, not $40,000, $4,200. After 7 years of working, after clearing her debt, after 14 months of disciplined $200 monthly contributions. And Sara is not an outlier. Sara is the median. According to Statistics Canada, the median net worth of a working Canadian household under 35, one built on employment income, not inheritance, is significantly below what most people assume. Sara's $4,200 is not embarrassing. It is typical, which is precisely why it matters.
Sara has earned approximately $350,000 in gross income over her working life. After tax, she has taken home somewhere around $240,000. She has $4,200 in savings. Where did the other $236,000 go? The answer is not what most people expect. Sara does not take expensive vacations. She does not own a luxury car. She rents a modest one-bedroom in a neighborhood that is not particularly trendy. She cooks at home most nights. She is not, by any reasonable definition, reckless with money.
What Sara has is a structural problem, not a spending problem, not a discipline problem, not a willpower problem, a structural problem, which means it is invisible from the inside. It compounds silently over time, and it will never fix itself, regardless of how hard she works or how much she earns. The name of Sara's structural problem is lifestyle inflation, and it is the primary reason why 70% of Canadians never cross $100,000 in net savings. The term gets used loosely. Let me be precise, because the structural definition is different from the popular one, and the difference matters. Popular definition: you earn more, you spend more, you have nothing to show for it. Correct, but incomplete. Structural definition: your fixed costs expand to absorb each income increase before the increase can be redirected to savings. The expansion is not a decision, it is a default. It happens through a series of individually reasonable choices that collectively produce a savings rate that never improves regardless of income growth.
Sara got a raise 18 months ago, $4,000 more per year after tax, about $280 more per month. Here is what happened to that $280. She moved to a slightly larger apartment. Not extravagant, just more space, which felt earned after years in a cramped studio. That was $140 more per month. She joined a gym she actually liked, instead of the cheap one she hated, $60 per month. She upgraded her phone plan,
because her old one was genuinely inadequate, $40 per month. She started buying better groceries because nutrition matters, and she wanted to invest in her health. Every single one of those decisions was reasonable. None of them were frivolous. And together they consumed 100% of her raise before a single extra dollar reached savings. That is lifestyle inflation, not recklessness, reasonableness applied in exactly the wrong sequence. The sequence is the structural trap. Most Canadians, when they receive additional income, process it in this order. Absorb new baseline expenses first, then consider what is left for savings. The 30% who reach $100,000 do it in reverse. They redirect a fixed percentage of every income increase to savings first automatically, before the cost baseline has any opportunity to expand. Then they live on what remains. The difference in outcomes between those two sequences, applied over 15 years at typical Canadian income levels, is not marginal. It is the difference between $4,000 in savings and $100,000. It is the difference between being in the 30% and being in the 70%.
Sara does not know this yet. She thinks her savings problem is an income problem. She is waiting for a promotion that is probably 2 years away before she feels she can save meaningfully. What she does not understand is that the promotion applied to her current sequence will produce the same result as every previous raise. The cost baseline will expand. The savings rate will stay flat, and she will still be waiting. She will be waiting at 31. She will be waiting at 34. She will be waiting at 38, earning $20,000 more than she earns today, with slightly better furniture and the same $4,000 savings balance. Before I show you what Sara's numbers look like on two different paths, I want to explain why $100,000 specifically is the threshold that matters, because it is not arbitrary. Charlie Munger said it once, the first $100,000 is a bitch. His word, not mine. But he was describing something mathematically real. In the early years of accumulation, Sara is carrying the full weight herself. At $10,000 in savings earning 8%, compounding adds $800 per year. That $800 is noise. It does not change anything. Sara does all the work. At $50,000, compounding adds $4,000 per year. Meaningful, but Sara is still carrying most of the load. At $100,000, compounding adds $8,000 per year. At Sara's current contribution rate of $200 per month, $2,400 per year, compounding is now generating more than 3 times what her monthly contributions generate. The account is working harder than Sara is. At $200,000, compounding adds $16,000 per year. Sara's contributions become almost irrelevant. The money is building itself. That is why 91% of people who reach $100,000 go on to reach $500,000. It is not discipline, it is arithmetic. After the threshold, the account has enough mass that compounding takes over, and the outcome becomes almost inevitable. Before the threshold, none of that is true. Sara is pushing the boulder up the hill entirely by hand, and every month of delay, every raise absorbed by lifestyle inflation, every year at $200 per month is a month where the boulder does not move, and the compounding engine sits idle. Here is exactly what Sara's numbers look like across both paths. Same income, same Calgary, same raises. The only variable is the sequence. Path 1 is the path Sara is currently on, $200 per month. Raises absorbed by cost baseline expansion. Her savings grow to approximately $34,000 by age 35, $61,000 by 40, $98,000 by 45. She approaches $100,000 at 45 years old, 16 years from now. 16 years of pushing the boulder before the compounding engine switches on. 16 years of being in the 70%. Path 2. Sara makes one structural change. She redirects 20% of every future income increase to savings before her cost baseline has any opportunity to absorb it. Not 20% of her current salary, just 20% of the increases. Her current $200 per month stays exactly where it is, but every raise, every bonus, 20% goes directly to the TFSA automatically before it arrives in her checking account. Year 1, the change is almost invisible. A 3% raise on $61,000 is about $1,200 after tax. 20% is $240. She adds $20 per month to her contribution. She does not feel it. Her lifestyle does not change. But compounding runs on what is there, not on what feels significant. By year 3, Sara is contributing $340 per month. By year 5, $460. By year 7, she is approaching $600, and her lifestyle has not materially changed because every increase was redirected before it could be spent. Sara crosses $100,000 at 36 years old, not 45, 36. 7 years earlier. 7 additional years of compounding above the threshold, the point where the math changes and the account starts working harder than Sara does. By 45, Path 2 Sara has approximately $240,000. Path 1 Sara has approximately $98,000. The gap between those two versions of Sara, same person, same city, same income, same rent, same groceries, same life, is $142,000. In Calgary, $142,000 is 4 years of rent. It is the full down payment on a property in most neighborhoods Sara can reach from where she works. It is the difference between arriving at 50 with options and arriving at 50 still waiting for conditions to improve. That gap came from one decision, not a salary, not a windfall, a sequence. There is one more structural layer Sara's current approach is missing, and it is what makes the 20% rule produce results that seem disproportionate to the effort involved. Sara's $200 per month sits in a savings account, earning 2.5%. After tax at her marginal rate, that becomes approximately 2%. After inflation at 3%, her real return is negative. She is losing purchasing power on the money she is working hardest to protect. The structural decision is not just to save more, it is to save in the right vehicle. A TFSA holding a diversified index ETF, one fund, 8% historical average, management fee under 0.2%, changes the math entirely. No tax on the return, no tax on withdrawal. The full 8% compounds on the full balance every year without government participation.
Sara has $46,000 of unused TFSA contribution room. She has used $6,000 of her available $52,000. That unused room is not an abstract missed opportunity. It is a specific, calculable cost, the difference between 8% compounding tax-free and 2% compounding taxed applied to $46,000 over the 15 years between now and Sara reaching the threshold. That difference is larger than most Canadians' entire savings balance. Alberta's tax structure gives Sara a structural advantage that most Canadian savers do not have. No provincial income tax means her marginal rate is lower, which means more of each raise survives to be redirected. The 20% rule captures more in absolute dollar terms in Calgary than it would for an equivalent earner in Toronto or Vancouver, where provincial tax compresses the after-tax increase before the redirection rule can apply. The same decision produces a better outcome in Calgary than anywhere else in the country. Sara does not know this. The bank has not mentioned it.
Here is what Sara is actually waiting for. She is waiting to feel ready. She is waiting until the raise that makes saving feel comfortable, until her income is high enough that redirecting 20% does not feel like a constraint. She is waiting for a threshold of financial ease that she imagines exists at some salary level above her current one, where discipline is no longer required because the math is easy enough that saving just happens. That threshold does not exist.
I have looked at this pattern across income levels, and the data is consistent. Canadians earning $40,000 feel like they will save properly at 60. At 60, the number moves to 80. At 80, 100. At 100, something always comes up. The feeling of readiness is not produced by income. It is produced by structure. And structure is a decision, not a salary level. The Canadians in the 30% are not the ones who waited until saving felt comfortable. They are the ones who made saving automatic before comfort was possible, and then discovered that the discomfort they had been anticipating never arrived because the money was redirected before the lifestyle had any opportunity to claim it.
Sara does not need a promotion. She does not need a windfall. She needs to change the sequence. 20% of the next raise redirected before it reaches her checking account. TFSA open, one ETF, automatic contribution. Leave it alone. That is the one decision. And once it is in place, the arithmetic takes over. The boulder starts moving on its own.
The 30% is not a different kind of person. It is a different sequence, made at a specific moment, usually earlier than felt necessary, always before it felt comfortable.
Not eventually, not after the promotion, this week. Because the compounding that Sara is not capturing right now is not recoverable. It is the specific months between now and when the structure is in place, and those months do not come back. Step 1, calculate the real savings rate. Sara sits down on Sunday and does one calculation. Every dollar that went into savings or debt repayment beyond minimums over the last 12 months, divided by her after-tax income. Her real savings rate. For Sara, the number is approximately 3.8%. The structural target, the rate that produces $100,000 in under 10 years at her income level, is between 15 and 20% of income increases. She is at 3.8. The gap between where she is and where she needs to be is not closed by trying harder. It is closed by changing the sequence. Sara has $4,200 in a savings account, earning negative real returns. Today, not this month, today, she opens a Roth Simple account. 15 minutes. SIN number, bank account, identity verification. She opens a TFSA within that account. She transfers the $4,200. Inside the TFSA, she buys XEQT, one fund, global diversification across thousands of companies, 8% historical average, management fee of approximately 0.2% per year. She does not research individual stocks. She does not wait for a better entry point. She buys XEQT, and she is done. Her $4,200 is now in a vehicle where 8% compounds tax-free, instead of 2% compounding taxed. She has not changed her income. She has not changed her lifestyle. She has changed the vehicle. The math changes immediately. Step 3. Set the 20% rule before the next raise. Sara's next performance review is in approximately 4 months. Before that review, she does one thing. She decides in advance that 20% of whatever increase she receives will be added to her TFSA pre-authorized contribution on the day the new rate takes effect. She does not wait to see how the raise feels. She does not wait to see if expenses have changed. She sets the rule before the raise arrives, so the money is redirected before her cost baseline has any opportunity to claim it. The pre-authorized contribution increases. The lifestyle does not change. The sequence is different. She applies the same rule to every raise, every bonus, every tax refund, 20%, before it arrives, every time. Step 4. Open the FHSA. If home ownership is the goal, Sara has not ruled out buying property. Calgary's market has appreciated significantly, and she watches it the way most renters watch it, with a mixture of anxiety and resignation. If home ownership is a goal within 15 years, the first home savings account runs parallel to the TFSA, not replacing it, running alongside it. $8,000 per year in contribution room, $40,000 lifetime maximum. Contributions are tax deductible at her marginal rate, meaning $8,000 in FHSA contributions returns approximately $1,700 at tax time. Withdrawals for a qualifying first home purchase are tax-free. The account combines the RRSP deduction with the TFSA withdrawal advantage, specifically for first-time buyers. Sara using both the TFSA and the FHSA simultaneously, maxing the FHSA annually while building the TFSA through the 20% rule, crosses $100,000 in combined registered savings at 35 instead of 36. The FHSA tax refund, reinvested into the TFSA each spring, creates a compounding feedback loop that costs nothing additional and accelerates the timeline by approximately 12 months. 2 accounts, 1 ETF each, both automatic. The structure does the work. Sara's job is to build it once and leave it alone. Step 5. Measure pace, not balance. Sara currently measures her financial progress by looking at her savings account balance, $4,200. It moves slowly. The motivation to continue is low because the visible progress is low. The correct metric is not balance. It is pace, the contribution rate as a percentage of income measured against the 20% of increases target. On that metric, progress is binary and concrete. Either the 20% rule is in place
or it is not. Either the TFSA is open and receiving contributions, or it is not. Either the sequence has changed, or it has not.
Measuring the balance in the early years of accumulation is like measuring a marathon by how many meters you have covered in the first 30 seconds. The metric is accurate and useless. The right measure is whether you are running at the pace that produces the outcome you want. For Sara, that pace is the 20% rule applied consistently. The balance at 36 is just what happens when that pace is held. 5 mistakes I have watched Canadians make on the path to 100,000. All 5 are structural. All 5 are fixable. All 5 are in effect right now in more Canadian households than most people would be comfortable admitting. Mistake 1. Treating the savings rate as a fixed dollar amount. Most Canadians set a monthly savings contribution, $200, $300, whatever feels manageable at the time, and treat it as permanent. The amount becomes part of the budget architecture and does not move unless deliberately revisited, which it rarely is. The structural error is expressing the savings rate as a dollar amount instead of a percentage. A percentage scales automatically with income. A dollar amount does not. Sara's $200 per month was approximately 4% of her take-home income when she set it. After 2 years of raises, it is closer to 3.5, because income grew and the contribution did not. Her savings rate is declining while her income is rising. This is the default trajectory for most Canadian savers. It is structural, and it requires a structural fix. Cost over 15 years at median Canadian income growth, approximately $41,000 in foregone accumulated savings compared to a percentage-based approach applied to increases. Mistake 2. Leaving TFSA room empty while saving in a taxable vehicle. This is the most expensive mistake on this list, and it is made by Canadians who are genuinely trying to do the right thing. Money accumulating in a savings account or non-registered investment account alongside an unused TFSA is a structural inefficiency with a specific dollar cost. There is no scenario in which money should be growing in a taxable vehicle while TFSA room sits empty, unless the TFSA is already maximized, which, for most Canadians under 40, it is not.
Sara has $46,000 of unused TFSA room and $4,000 in a savings account, earning taxable 2.5% interest. The correct move costs nothing in terms of lifestyle change. Transfer the $4,000 into the TFSA today and redirect all future contributions there first. The structural benefit compounds from day one. Cost of leaving $46,000 of TFSA room unused for 10 years, approximately $31,000 in additional after-tax wealth compared to maximizing the vehicle in year 1.
Mistake 3. Waiting for the right moment to start investing. The most common version, I will start investing seriously when I get the promotion, when I pay off the car, when the market corrects, when things stabilize. The trigger condition varies. The outcome is consistent. The account never opens, or opens years later than it should, because the right moment is always just ahead of where the person currently stands.
Compounding does not wait for right moments. It runs on whatever is in the account, starting from whatever date the account opens. Sara, at 29, with $4,000 invested today, has more compounding potential than Sara at 34, with $20,000 invested then, because the 5 additional years of 8% growth on the $4,000 produces approximately $5,800 of returns before 34-year-old Sara even opens her account. That $5,800 compounds for the rest of Sara's investing life, on top of whatever she adds later. Start with what exists. The right moment is the moment the account opens.
Mistake 4. Using the RRSP before the TFSA at Sara's income level. The RRSP is a powerful tool at high income levels, above approximately $80,000 of taxable income, where the deduction returns meaningfully more than the eventual withdrawal tax cost. Below that threshold, the TFSA is structurally superior for the accumulation phase.
Here is why. RRSP contributions are tax-deductible at your current marginal rate, but RRSP withdrawals are taxed as income at your marginal rate at the time of withdrawal. If Sarah contributes at 22% today and withdraws at 22% at retirement, the tax benefit is approximately zero. The deduction and the withdrawal tax cancel each other out. The TFSA has no deduction on contribution, but no tax on withdrawal. And TFSA withdrawals do not affect income-tested retirement benefits like OAS or GIS. For most Canadians at median income in the accumulation phase, the TFSA provides more after-tax wealth at retirement than an equivalent RRSP contribution. Sarah's bank has mentioned the RRSP several times. The bank sells RRSP products. What Sarah needs to know is the specific income threshold above which the RRSP advantage becomes real, and whether she is above or below it before she makes the decision.
Mistake 5. Solving a structural problem with a behavioral fix. This is the mistake that keeps the most Canadians stuck the longest, and it is the one that feels the most virtuous while it is happening. Lifestyle inflation is a structural problem. It is caused by a default sequence that processes expenses before savings. The correct fix is a structural one. Change the sequence, automate the redirection, build the mechanism that makes the right outcome happen without requiring active decision-making every pay period. The behavioral fix, trying harder, being more disciplined, cutting specific expenses, tracking spending in a spreadsheet, addresses the symptom without touching the structure. It works for a month or two, and then the structure reasserts itself because the sequence has not changed. The money still arrives, the expenses still claim it first, and the savings rate stays flat regardless of how much effort is applied. Sara has tried the behavioral fix. She tracked her spending for 3 months in 2023. She cut her coffee budget. She canceled a subscription. Her savings rate did not improve in any measurable way because the sequence was unchanged. The money arrived, the baseline absorbed it, and $200 per month went to savings, the same $200 it had always been. The structural fix is not harder than the behavioral one. It is one decision, made once, automated, and left alone. The difficulty is not the implementation. It is recognizing that the problem is structural in the first place, because from the inside, a structural problem always looks like a discipline problem, and discipline problems feel like they should be solved by trying harder. They should not. They should be solved by building a better structure. 5 structural mistakes, 5 specific, calculable costs. None of them required bad luck or bad decisions in any conventional sense. All 5 are the result of a default sequence that nobody designed and nobody chose, that most Canadians inherited from a financial system that profits from the gap between what they earn and what they keep.
Sara is going to cross $100,000. The structure is simple enough that once it is understood, it is almost impossible not to implement. The TFSA room is there. The ETF is available. The 20% rule requires no additional income, only a different sequence for the income she already earns. What Sara was missing was not motivation, not discipline, not a higher salary. It was the information that the sequence matters more than the amount, that structure is a decision, not a salary level, and that the compounding after $100,000, the part that feels almost automatic, the part that makes 91% of people who get there keep going, is waiting on the other side of one structural change that she can make before this week is over.
30% of Canadian households reach $100,000. 91% of those go on to reach $500,000. The math after the threshold is not hard. The math before it is entirely about sequence. Which direction money moves the moment it arrives. Whether the raise goes to the cost baseline first or to the TFSA first. That is the one decision. That is why most Canadians never get there. And that is why the ones who do almost always keep going. If this gave you a number you had been avoiding, the real savings rate, the TFSA room, the gap between your 2 paths, share it with one person who is still waiting for the right moment. The right moment is the one where the sequence changes. That moment is available today. Next week, the $84,000 CPP timing decision that most Canadians get completely wrong. I will see you then.